It is Monday, June 15th, 2020. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. And it was a little bit of a different virtual get your ass kicked at jiu-jitsu Monday. Did a little bit of JKD today, a little bit of kicking here and there, and then we did some stuff from like a almost like a north-south, except with them turned over. It's basically if they were on their hands and knees and facing you, and getting around that and taking it to a clock choke. And also a Darce. We did a little bit of work on the old Darce choke today. But yeah, it's not the same as doing it in a dojo, and hopefully that's coming to this whole virtual only business is going to be going away soon. It seems like there's a lot of people that are really wanting to get back to training as normal, myself included, and there's a lot of interest in it, you know. And I can imagine with a little bit more of the workforce being online, that they're going to be looking for additional extracurricular activities that get them a little busier and get them up off their ass. And so I would anticipate that things like jiu-jitsu and just martial arts in general will definitely go up in interest. Just because, you know, it's one of those things of self-improvement, and it really does change your perspective on pretty much everything. I can't even really describe the ways that it's changed my perspective. You know, just the idea that somebody else can wrap their arm around your neck in a very deadly way and put you out, take you out. You know, I mean, it's scary enough just conceptually, but when you actually experience it, it kind of takes a lot of the doubt that you're left with it as just a conceptual thing. But yeah, so hopefully that'll be changing soon, and if it doesn't this week, I might actually elect to start training at another gym in addition to the one that I'm already in. I don't have any desire to leave Gied Jiu-Jitsu, in all honesty, regardless of what happens in the near future. I do anticipate that things are going to go back to a semblance of what we considered normal to be. Hopefully it'll be a little better this time. You know, I've been thinking about it, and more I'm thinking that it isn't so much the police, and it isn't so much race. It's the laws. You know, you got people that dream up laws specifically to disenfranchise certain elements of the electorate, certain elements of society and civilization. And the problem with that is that you develop inequities, and on a systemic level. You know, and I've talked about the management of our fisheries, and honestly I feel like somebody does have a plan. You know, they got some plan about how they want to, like, rearrange everything to where, you know, there's no private property, and trees are just resources, and we can just cut them down and not even think about what we're putting back in place of it, and that's somehow going to work. And the problem is that I really feel like we're at the upper limit of nature versus man as far as how much of nature we should be occupying. And as a matter of fact, I believe that the nature that we do occupy, we should be utilizing a lot better than we currently do. And there really isn't any excuse for it other than somebody's got it in their brain that every fish and every fucking burger and everything that you put in your mouth, they should get it fucking paid for it. You know, so when you got people talking about socialism and whatnot, they always envision themselves being among the top upper crust, that upper 0.001% that's allowed to make any profit from their commerce, and that they're going to be living fat and sassy and all the little black markets and shit that they're involved in. And this is not the case. You fucking people do not understand. This is not the case. We live in a digital era. And what that means to me is that when we have things like police accidentally shooting people who are not armed, and we get shit like red flag laws and stuff like that. I think these are people that, when they're drawing these things up as laws, they're trying to craft ways within our judicial system, in our legal system, that they can just pick off, whatever competition that they have out there, either put them in jail or shoot them or whatever. And, I think about it in terms of, like, if we are having a quote-unquote accidental shooting and whatnot, it might not be all that accidental. It might be that this person fell into a certain number of categories that have been established by a programmer whose politics don't necessarily align with the existence of the United States or even capitalism. And it's like they're not thinking far enough in advance to think about, the fact that their job exists because of capitalism. And it's like they're not even really thinking about, oh gosh, I'm programming myself into extinction because I fit a lot of the criteria that I'm feeding into this thing to select through for detecting terrorists. And so if at any point this thing is like going to be used to be filtering through people and deciding who to pick off and whatnot, you're going to end up on that fucking list too. And worse yet, you're not always going to be in control of what fucking criteria we're selecting by. And this is the problem that we always face with laws, is that they're not necessarily written for the current president or the current administration to apply. Things like the Patriot Act. I mean, when we being Americans that pay attention to things like legislation, when we saw things like the Patriot Act and we were reading through it, it's like elements of this thing have been floating around D.C. for 20 fucking years, and nobody wants to push them through because they're completely antithetical to the American lifestyle and the American Constitution. And so, it's like we saw it coming. None of this shit is surprising. None of this shit is a mystery. This is on somebody's fucking plan. And so when you're looking at what's going on right now, you've got to anticipate the possibility that what you are observing is part of somebody else's plan too. It's not necessarily just a whole bunch of random fucking events. And I mean, we can assume that that's the case when we don't have things like surveillance networks all over our streets and in our offices and in our homes, and the NSA having access to all the little microphones and all the little cameras and all of our digital devices. You cannot have the kind of lapses in intelligence and the kind of accidents that we're having if all that information is actually being used the way that they were saying that it was going to be used when they initially asked for it. And so again, it's one of these things where we have cops doing shit that they shouldn't do. We have legislators legislating shit that they should not be legislating. Like things like income taxes. You're going to charge me a tax just for having the audacity of working and making money. How fucking crazy is that? Or a fishing license. You're going to charge me money to go fish the commons that are mine. Part of my birthright as an American. And feed myself. What the fuck? Who allowed this shit? Who thought this was a reasonable thing to do? And I really think that we are coming up to the end of the game where these rules were applicable or were possible. And I believe that I'm not the only person that's noticing the disconnect here between the surveillance capability that they espouse that they have, the authority that they have at their disposal, and how it's actually applied. This disparity is not going to go unnoticed, especially in an age like we are in right now, where you got 100 million people out there that are on fucking social media just in the United States alone, And they're all comparing notes. They're all filming shit and uploading it all over the internet, and not just on Twitter and Facebook, where you can hit a fucking, if it showed up there first, where you'd be able to just knock it down. No, they've got social media accounts all over the place. They're emailing shit to one another. They're instant messaging shit to one another. They're streaming shit to one another, and you're not going to stop that. And as a matter of fact, you're not going to even be able to fully interfere with it. I mean, we've seen places that have gone into full virtual lockdown, and they're nothing of the sort. People still manage to get information out that the administration does not intend to get out. They still manage to share information that the administration would rather they not share, that they not compare notes on. And this fact is not going to go away. We are going to use the very tools that have been put in our hands to spy on us, to inform ourselves and make appropriate decisions about what to be doing on our own. And as our current leadership appears to be ineffectual in some places, and possibly even intentionally so, I think our participation in the whole policing idea, the whole idea of policing, is going to be changing a great deal. They're not going to be asking cops to test your fucking sobriety, because it's really none of their fucking business. Covered by the Fourth Amendment. Myself, my property, my effects. And like I said, I think we're going to get really realistic about our priorities. Where really should we be interceding in the lives of others? What business is it of ours? And really, is there any case where it's absolutely necessary? And personally, I don't believe there is. Let's go ahead and throw down with some music, though. And, we're going to start off with some body count. And, I'm not sure which song I want to start on more. But I think this one's appropriate, so we're going to go with it. Body count, Ace of Spades, First Dance here on Coin Metal. And that was Sepultura with Infected Voice. And so, as far as what we're going to get into tonight, I've got a whole bunch of stuff. A whole bunch of tabs open. And I'm not entirely certain where I want to go with it. I know that one is something we already did, so we're not going to cover that. May cover that tonight, even though it's mildly old. Flipping through some tabs here, hope you don't mind. And maybe might cover that one. Might cover that one. Might cover that one. Oh, that's kind of interesting. No, I don't think we're going to go with that. Anyway, that's an interesting one we might go with. May. Not going to go with. Get rid of that. I got all kinds of tabs open, and for some fucking reason, I don't know why. This subject, if I can get to it, because the person who posted it has me blocked on Twitter. Let me see if I can get to the document itself. There's some confusion as far as Fake Toshi recently, and he's one of my favorite subjects. And let me see if I can actually find an article concerning this. Let's see, CSW hacks T-Gox. Yeah, this ongoing saga with Craig. This fucking moron. I swear. He's so fucking stupid. I mean, I'm so up in the air about him. Okay, because on one hand, I think he's the biggest idiot on the fucking planet. And then on the other hand, I think he's so fucking strategic in his lying that he's managing to keep himself out of jail and entertainingly in court pretty much indefinitely at this point. And I'm not sure how it's going to culminate, But I do know this. There's going to be a significant sentence put on this guy for contempt of court and perjury. I don't care. I don't care what else rolls out. Whatever fraudulent claims, whatever other things that he's going to be put in prison for, those two things he's going to be put in prison for, because it's going to be found out that this motherfucker has been wasting everybody's fucking time. Everybody's fucking time. And it's pissing me off that it's lasted this long, because just the duration itself gives somebody, somewhere, some minor hope that yes, he's Satoshi and it's all going to turn out that he's been telling the truth and we're going to sue everybody that's used the Bitcoin code because it's all his, and fuck you. You're playing in a field with fucking unicorns, man. It's not fucking going to happen. Oy. Anyway, so this is on beincrypto.com. Craig Wright stakes claim to hacked Mt. Gox funds. And this is by Osato Nameo? Ava Nameo? Okay, whatever. And I don't know, let me check and verify something really quick here. Check and verify. Lagos, Nigeria. Blah, 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 blah. So yes, penis. And this is authored June 12, 2020 by Brian Smith. That's weird. Was it written by Osato or Ryan? Either way, penis. In the latest installment of the Craig Wright saga, lawyers representing the Australian computer scientist say that Wright owns the contents of 2 hacked Mt. Gox wallets. In a move that is currently attracting contempt from all quarters of crypto Twitter, CSW's legal team is reportedly circulating a letter to several stakeholders in the Bitcoin space, warning them to steer clear of these sketchy wallets. Did CSW just admit to hacking Mt. Gox? Tweeting on Friday, Blockstream's Chief Strategy Officer, CSO, Samson Mao, who has me blocked because he's a pussy-ass little bitch, revealed the letter from CSW's legal team claiming ownership of the Bitcoin held in 2 specific wallets. And SCA on tier, let's see, Bitcoin Core, FAO, Vladimir Vandelaan, I don't know, and Peter Wheel. Dear Sirs, notice regarding the ownership of BTC, we act for the Tulip Trading Limited, Tulip. We also act for Dr. Craig Wright, the individual behind the pseudonymous Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin. Tulip owns the unsplit Bitcoin in the following addresses, blah, 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 blah. The IFEX address contains 79,957.20 blah, 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 blah Bitcoin with a sterling equivalent value of approximately 609 million GBP. The 1-2 address contains 31,000 BTC with a sterling equivalent of approximately 236 million GBP. On or around the 5th of February 2020, access to and control over those addresses was stolen. During a hack on Dr. Wright's computer network, the private keys to those addresses were stored in an encrypted file on that network, as was part of the information required to open that file. Both the encrypted file and the related information were stolen during the hack and deleted from the network. Tulip and Dr. Wright believe that as those responsible for the Bitcoin Core blockchain, BTC, you have duties in relation to transactions on that blockchain in circumstances where you have notice of the interests involved, including particularly avoiding illegitimate transactions being entered on the blockchain where you have notice of the same. As a result, we hereby put you on notice that number 1, as stated above, Tulip is the legal owner of the Bitcoin core in the IFEX and blah 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 addresses, and number 2, Tulip intends to recover control over the addresses and the Bitcoin core contained therewithin. The first wallet, popularly referred to as 1FEX address, holds a certain amount of notoriety in Bitcoin folklore. About 80,000 Bitcoin from the Mt. Gox hack is still in the IFEX or 1FEX address. According to the letter, CSW lost control of both wallets in early February. Wright's lawyers say hackers broke into his computer network, adding, quote, "The private keys to those addresses were stored in an encrypted file on that network, as was part of the information required to open that file. Both the encrypted file and the related information were stolen during the hack and then deleted from the network." Since the 1FEX address holds stolen funds, some pundits believe CSW may actually be responsible for the hack. Between 2011 and 2014, hackers stole about $350 million of Bitcoin from Mt. Gox, leading to the demise of the largest Bitcoin trading platform at that time. And let's see here. However, Wright's history of suspected forgery, plagiarism, and unsubstantiated claims also presents the possibility that the letter is nothing other than a stunt by the self-proclaimed Bitcoin inventor to repeatedly stake important claims on all things BTC related. Wright doubling down on bold claims. As part of the letter, CSW's lawyers also included statements declaring Wright to have full ownership of Bitcoin and the entire database. Wright has, in the past, proclaimed that BTC and Bitcoin Cash owe him $100 billion for breach of contract. His infamous Satoshi Nakamoto claim, for which he is branded Faketoshi, has seen numerous repudiations. Back in May, an early Bitcoin miner signed a cryptographic message with 145 addresses previously claimed by Wright. In the message, the mysterious Bitcoin adopter called Wright a liar and a fraud. In response, CSW has petitioned the court in his lawsuit with the claimant estate to keep his claimed Bitcoin addresses sealed. That's just so that the rest of the world won't sit here debunking him while he's still in court. Fucking, like I said, he's either the biggest fucking moron on the planet, or he's like some super strategist. And I don't think he's that smart, in all honesty, because he keeps making these stupid fucking claims that people are able to debunk. And worse yet, he has submitted materials to the court that people have proven. And as a matter of fact, the court itself has said they thought were fraudulent. And according to the burdens put up by the plaintiff's attorneys, the credibility was pretty much explained away on them. And, I can't understand why anybody would still believe this man. Really. But everybody is free to believe whatever they want to, and that's a double-edged sword. Because it means that people are free to believe whatever bullshit's coming down the line, whether or not it's actually true. But yeah, the biggest thing with regard to this, guys, like this claim on Bitcoin itself, if he were involved in Bitcoin from the beginning, like I was, he would know that the claim that he's making there is completely fallacious and facetious, basically, because the fact of the matter is those coins were the product of people's work, not just his code. I can sit here and write code all day long, but I can't claim ownership over products of that code. If people run it and say it's an art program, for people to draw shit, I can't claim ownership of their artwork after they've used it to create art. Just like CSW can't claim ownership over anything Bitcoin related just because he's some holder or some claimant of some aspect of it. And if you really want to get legal about it, you just go back to this fact that Bitcoin is an open source project. And it's built upon other open source projects. The concepts behind Bitcoin are not new. They are what is considered, in court anyway, as far as when it comes to intellectual property, prior art. And so again, if this were the issue of the case, he would have been submerged under it by now. But it's not. And as far as I'm concerned, he's just jerking off the court and buying more time. And at the very least, he's trying to buy time because he's using computers to try and hack into the wallets that he seized from the Kleeman estate. And at worst, he doesn't even have that. And he's just stalling for time because if it's ever found out that he doesn't even have that, all of the little criminal enterprises that have dumped money on him for his means are going to be coming looking for him. And I've said this many times, that the CSW drama is going to end in tears. It's either going to end in lawsuits in prison, or it's going to end in death. Really, the man has ventured down a very dangerous road without any consideration of the dragon's den he was crawling himself into, only considering the possibility that there's some big-ass treasure at the end of that tunnel, and without any regard to the possibility that there's a big fucking dragon sitting on top of all that gold that's going to torch and eat his ass before he gets any of it. And worse yet, he's doing this little venture on somebody else's dime. I'm sure he has some coins at this point, but certainly not enough to legitimize this venture. That whatever he's promised his creditors, I don't believe he'll ever be able to deliver on. But that's just me. Y'all are free to believe whatever you want to believe. If you happen to have a million or two invested in this guy's ventures and you just want to believe that he's going to fulfill on them, hey, you go right ahead. It's your money. Personally, I wouldn't trust the man any further than I can throw him, and I could probably throw him a foot or two. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down with some music. And, we didn't play any Voivod last time. I think this one's appropriate. End of Dormancy by Voivod, here on Coin Metal. Sorry, I let it run a little bit over there, man. Jesus Christ. People assailing me all over fucking Twitter, man. I got into it with somebody and I couldn't disengage. Anywho, back to what we were talking about tonight, because, a whole bunch of other bullshit going on out there, completely irrelevant to what we're talking about. You know what's funny about all this? And I have unending mirth internally over this, is that while all of this other shit is going on, this Antifa bullshit and all that, crypto is still working. We're still doing our thing. And it tells me that after all the fucking shit and the dust and all that settles, we're still gonna fucking be here. And we're going to be here to pick up the slack where these people drop the ball, man. Come on now. I really think that a lot of the strife and inequity that we see in the markets is created by the fact that we have so many intermediaries between the persons providing the volume of cash or other monetary value or other value, period. The people providing that do not have a direct interface with the people providing the materials or the services or the products. And due to this fact, the people that are asking for certain things aren't getting what they want because they've got the value systems of every third party involved in their commerce that has involved themselves in their commerce, oftentimes without their knowledge. And we're being forced to tow all of this additional drag without making any additional profit off of it. It's not returning a value on the investment. So not only is it being misappropriated, but what value it is providing is creating additional inequities. To me, it seems like the principal purpose of regulation is to keep you the fuck out of shit. The whole reason to say, all right, you got to have a license to do this now. It's not to cover enforcement for the rules that are involved in it or anything like that. You know, like I'll give you an example: fishing licenses. You know, originally that was supposed to go to the maintenance of our parks and the enforcement of our game laws, where it pertained to fish. And it was supposed to go to employing people to do that shit. And instead, the states started looking at the volume of capital that was being accrued under fishing licenses, under the auspices of licensing people to be able to fish, and pissing it away on other shit. Oh, we need more money for schools. We need more money for police officers to enforce our drug laws that we've decided that we just absolutely fucking need. You know, we can't afford to dedicate the funds to what it's actually being accrued for. No, we've got to put it to daycare. We've got to put it to abortions for people that don't have any money. We've got to put it to health care for people who won't work. And disability for people who won't work. But we can't take care of what it's actually accrued for. And so again, it's because of this disconnect between the people that need the service and the goods and whatnot, providing the money for it, and not receiving it. And this is going to continue as long as we believe that we need that kind of taxation, we need that kind of regulation in our markets. And I'm not going to lie to you, there's going to be some fucking danger out there. But the fact of the matter is that we've got plenty of enforceable laws that involve victims. You know, things like theft, things like fraud. We have plenty of laws to define what these things are. So enforcing them is not all that, or should not be all that difficult to do. But the thing is that we have to apply it universally. And I'll give you another example. The NYDFS and their issuance of bit licenses. The whole process is just to keep you the fuck out of it. And I defy anybody, and I don't give a fuck who they are. Fucking Jerome Powell. I will have an argument with Jerome Powell about bit license and how much good it's actually brought to crypto. I mean, it might have saved a few New Yorkers a few $1,000,000. I'm not going to lie. There's plenty of volatility in crypto. There's plenty of illicit activity. But for what illicit activity there was, the difference is that we took it upon ourselves to demonstrate the efficacy of crypto. We took it upon ourselves to demonstrate that it's not for fucking kiddie porn and fucking drugs. And that it can be used as money, and that it does have positive effects for people that need to do things like remittances and don't have access to banks. We took it upon ourselves to do that. And ever since these fucking regulators have decided that they belong in crypto too, they've got something to say about what's going on in crypto too. Despite the fact they don't run any miners, despite the fact they don't write any fucking code, they think they can come in and talk shit to you about doing both of those things. And these are not their place. There is nothing in the United States Constitution that says you will only transact in US dollars or Federal Reserve notes. There is nothing in there, not even one of the amendments that requires you to do all of your business in one currency or another. There's also nothing in there that says that the government can tax you on creations of your own mind. Now, of course, they've written laws and they've written policies since then, but if we were to apply these laws universally and everybody had the same fucking defense lawyer when it comes to being in court, a lot of people that are considered legit in the legacy markets would no longer be in the legacy markets because they would not pass muster according to the dictates of the fucking bit license. You know, if they didn't have any kind of coverage where, like, if they were previously, you know, licensed as a BSA or whatever, if they had that license that it covers it, no, we should take that away. I don't care if the NYDFS signed off on you as a legacy bank, because the legacy bank can do things like fractional reserve, and they have full accountability, and they have the fucking FDIC over their shoulder all the time saying, if you fuck up too badly, we'll cover you. But we don't have that in crypto. And no legal entity, no government out there can give it to you. No corporation can give it to you. They can give you a trust us that, you know, should things go awry with your finances, we will fully compensate you. That's all they can provide is an assurance. They can't provide the real thing. Even if you went to court and we were talking about Dogecoin, say you lost millions of dollars worth of Dogecoin, and it was due to somebody stealing your Dogecoin, and you knew who it was, and you took them to court. The court cannot compel that person to give you the Dogecoin that they stole from you. They could try, but there isn't anything physically they can do. They can't go to Doge, the developers for Dogecoin, and say, give this man his Dogecoin back, unlike what Craig Wright was saying about Bitcoin earlier. You can't do it. So because they can't provide those kind of assurances, we have absolutely no incentive to trust in them. No incentive to comply with their regulations, because they cannot provide us safety, value in exchange for that regulation. All they can provide is a gun to your head saying, do it my way. That's all they can provide. And worse yet, they can charge you for it. You know, I mean, I really wish I could do that. You know, just walk down the street and say, I'm in charge of you clipping your grass. If you're not clipping your grass on appropriate times, I get to charge you money. Because that's basically what the government's saying when they're backtracking and digging through their fucking reams of laws and saying, oh, hey, we can apply this to Bitcoin. We can apply this to crypto. No, you can't. You can say that you can, but you can't stop people from writing code. You can't stop them from writing code you don't like. And that's always going to be true. Always. And if it's not true for you, it will always be true for somebody. And as long as it's true for somebody, it will be true for everybody. And this is something that I think some people just don't understand that about computers. You know, they just don't really get it. But anyway, I got this next thing here, and I think this is hilarious. It's exactly what we were talking about, and this is from CoinDesk.com. U.S. Supreme Court's computer fraud ruling has big implications for crypto. No, it doesn't. And this is authored on June 15th, 2020 at 2119 UTC, and it is by Andrew Hinks. Now, let me point this out. This is opinion, and yes, penis. Let's see here. Oh, and just a qualifier here, Andrew Hinks Hinks? It might be Hinks. Is an attorney with Carlton Fields, an adjunct professor at the New York University Stern School of Business and New York University School of Law, which means exactly jack shit in crypto. This summer, the U.S. Supreme Court will consider how to interpret the 1986 Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, a key data protection law. The court's decision could criminalize common but technically prohibited computer-related conduct, put limitations on a powerful law that punishes insider data theft and abuse like exchange hacks, or come down somewhere in the middle. At issue in United States v. Van Buren is the interpretation of a provision of the CFAA, 18 U.S.C. 1030, subsection A, subsection 2C, which makes it a federal crime to, quote, access a computer without authorization or exceed authorized access. Let me read that one again, because that has farther reaching implications than they're considering here. It makes it a federal crime to access a computer without authorization or exceed authorized access, and thereby obtain information from any protected computer. To, quote, exceed authorized access means to access a computer with authorization and to use such access to obtain or alter information in the computer that the accessor is not entitled so to obtain or alter. The case was initiated by a Georgia police officer, Nathan Van Buren, who was authorized to access and search a police database for law enforcement purposes, but instead accessed that database to identify a person in exchange for payment by a private citizen. Van Buren was charged criminally with a violation of the CFAA. Van Buren argued that, quote, accessing information for an improper or impermissible purpose does not exceed authorized access as meant by the CFAA. The government argued that, quote, a defendant violates the CFAA not only when he obtains information that he has no rightful authorization whatsoever to acquire, but also when he obtains information for, quote, a non-business purpose. What about a business purpose? I would think that it would apply doubly so there. Van Buren was convicted at trial of violating the CFAA. On appeal, his conviction was upheld by the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals based on United States v. Rodriguez, which holds that a person with access to a computer for business reasons exceeds his authorized access when he obtains information for a non-business reason. Actually, I would say that for a business reason too, especially if it's not within the same scope or purview of the business under which it's gathered. Meaning that, like, say I download an app for, the place that does my oil, and during the transactions or whatever, the information is gathered from the onboard computer on in my vehicle. They have authorized access for the purposes of determining the health of my vehicle and also making recommendations for adjustments or things that I might want to do to improve the function of my vehicle, or at least maintain it, and then sell that information to, say, some law enforcement agency or some third-party agent that handles and collects data for such entities. That in itself, in my mind at least, exceeds the given authority to the publisher of the software and or the person using it. So, if a cop abuses that information or uses that information, it's like I didn't get an oil change on a new vehicle and my ex-wife doesn't know about it, and I'm currently in court with my ex-wife, that the information gets back to her lawyer concerning this vehicle, and suddenly it's an asset that I didn't count on my list of assets while we were in divorce, and because of that, she gets to take me back to court and sue me again, right? Well, the information was gathered via a completely unrelated event, right? And again, this is just a loose description, just to give some sort of context for what angle that I'm coming at here. But anyway, let's get back to this article here. Holds that a person access a computer for business reasons exceeds his authorized access when he obtains information for a non-business reason. Again, I would believe that, say if the particular, say it's Microsoft, say they have multiple businesses and they share the information that they gather from me with those other businesses. They gathered it under the auspices of a business reason. However, the business reason in which they utilize the data might have absolutely nothing to do with the auspices under which it was gathered. See, to me, this is just as great a violation of my Fourth Amendment rights as if they, just fraudulently claimed one thing and then did another. It's the same thing. All right, continuing on, quote, this interpretation could also criminalize 51% attacks against public network blockchains. Actually, no, it could not. And the reason being is because 51% attacks can just as easily be a majority of miners determining that they do not want to exercise a particular implementation that's been made available. Say that Blockstream puts out an implementation and the vast majority of the miners do not like it. But Blockstream has a significant number of miners themselves, and so they implement the code, and then they bitch when the miners won't implement the code, and they rat it out as a 51% attack. Continuing on. See, that's why it can't be. Because the work itself of those miners is the product of their will. And that's the agreement that they have with the Bitcoin network. There is no legally binding thing that they have to run a specific implementation of Bitcoin or they're just not Bitcoin. No. If they're running an implementation of Bitcoin that, say, doesn't flag support for SegWit, and it's the vast majority of miners, that's fucking Bitcoin then. Say the majority of miners tomorrow decide, you know what, we are no longer going to flag support for BIP9. All the blocks that we mine from now on out, we're only going to consider the block size limit. We're not going to consider block height or weight, block weight, not block height. We're not going to consider block weight as the determining factor. We're going to go back to raw block size limit. Fuck you all. And I know there's more to it than that, so please, just save me the minutiae of detail. This is only a 3-hour show. We just don't have that kind of time. But anyway, the point being is these are consensus networks that are all volunteer. So the idea of being able to determine a quote-unquote 51% attack as a violation of a law is a bunch of fucking bullshit. And especially because Bitcoin is an international venture. And where these laws might apply within the United States, they do not apply elsewhere. And cannot be made to apply elsewhere. Continuing on. Not all circuit courts of appeal interpret that provision of the CFAA the same way. The 1st, 5th, 7th, and 11th courts have imposed liability where an authorized person accesses data on a system with authorization and exceeds that authorization by obtaining information for an improper purpose. 2nd, 4th, and 9th courts have ruled that a person violates that portion of the CFAA only if he accesses information on a computer that he is prohibited from accessing for any reason. Van Buren's appeal, I wonder if they do it the other way though, is if the person is given access for any reason. Anyway, continuing on. Van Buren's appeal asks the U.S. Supreme Court to decide on this split and to determine whether a person who is authorized to access information on a computer for certain purposes violates the CFAA if he accesses the same information for an improper purpose. What's at stake? Oh, I assure you, what's at stake is far in excess of what they could actually describe in one article. I can think of several. Anyway, continuing on, what's at stake? Resolving this conflict is important. The position taken by the 11th Circuit Court may protect crypto users in the case of insider theft. For an example, if an insider at a crypto exchange has the right to access customer data or private keys and uses that access for an improper purpose, i.e. to sell that data on the dark web, that insider could be charged under the CFAA and subject to criminal penalties. Hold the baking powder. Would the same apply if a developer under Microsoft's hire compromised the development of a project on GitHub? Continuing on. However, it has been argued that this interpretation could criminalize common conduct, such as operating March Madness pools on employer-owned computers in violation of company policies and activities that are not illegal but are contractually prohibited, like lying about your height on an online dating site in violation of the website's terms of service. This broad interpretation has been attacked in Van Buren as problematic from a constitutional perspective on the grounds that it can transform a violation of a private agreement into a criminal offense and raise due process issues. From a crypto perspective, the broad 11th Circuit interpretation may suggest that a trader on a crypto exchange who spoofs, churns, or wash trades, actions which may violate applicable commodities law, but which are rarely punished because the Federal Reserve does it all day long, may be subject to criminal liability under the CFAA if that activity violates the exchange's terms of service. This interpretation could also criminalize 51% attacks against public network blockchains if a court viewed the consensus rules, software, and work contributed by miners to form implied contracts that prohibit such contact. No. Under this broader interpretation, intermediaries like exchanges or custodians that grant insiders access to valuable information may attempt to protect themselves and their information by updating their policies to expressly prohibit insiders from using that information for any non-business purpose. These companies may also seek to confirm that their insurance policies cover any potential violations. Yeah, that little bit of the interpretation right there would destroy Robinhood overnight. Destroy them. Because even though they don't collect fees on their users, or at least not on every one of their trades, they sell their fucking information to other exchanges. Continuing on. Quote, the outcome could have big implications for cryptocurrency industry, which increasingly relies on legally enforceable privacy rights. The narrower interpretation promoted by Van Buren would limit the application of the CFAA to access without authorization, regardless of use. Oh my god, dude, if that were the case, we would all be able to take the fucking NSA to court. Continuing on. The interpretation restricts the application of criminal penalties to conduct that is more like, quote, traditional hacking, that still does not make any intelligence agencies safer, hacking and may reduce the possibility that minor violations of boilerplate agreements could be treated as federal crimes. You know, like if Microsoft puts a backdoor in for a federal entity, but it's abused by somebody else, and somebody suffers a material loss because of that abuse. There you go. This interpretation could limit claims against insiders who have the authority to access data and use that data for an improper purpose. No, I think that's called fraud. Continuing on. The CFAA can be a powerful weapon against hackers. It could allow civil parties to sue and enable prosecutors to seek criminal penalties, including potential incarceration of violators for up to 5 years. Limitations on the CFAA, the CFAA's reach could deprive prosecutors of a tool to punish data breachers and insider attacks. Like many other computer-related federal laws, the CFAA actually, you know what? One thing on that last part, insider attacks and whatnot, if you can prove that an attack was made and the person actually profited in some way, shape, or form, that's all that needs to be proven. It doesn't mean that that you have to not punish people for using data improperly. Continuing on. Like many other computer-related federal laws, the CFAA predates the modern internet and is showing its age, i.e. it's a law that does not apply to the fucking internet, but they're trying to anyway because it grants them certain exemptions and certain advantages that they previously had in a time without the internet. Continuing on. Although there may be reason to suggest a modernization of the law to better fit the current internet-enabled business world, courts, parties, and prosecutors alike continue to rely on the CFAA to protect computers, data, and online assets. A variety of industries and interests, including the crypto world, should await the court's verdict with interest. The outcome could have big implications for the cryptocurrency industry, which increasingly relies on legally enforceable privacy rights and the power of law to ensure that intermediaries properly secure their customers' digital assets. Actually, you know, and that's a part where our legislators have failed us, because they're very, very sparse on applying what laws they have against fraud and whatnot, and they're very, very selective in the way that they apply it. And they are very, very inept when it comes to recommendations on things like data security. They're very lax about it. And it's mostly, I believe, because they want the interpretations kept loose so that they can openly abuse whatever laws that exist without worry about, you know, are we going to get thrown in jail for, you know, is immunity not going to apply to us in this case? You know. So yeah, you know, this is the kind of thing that in crypto, or even with regard to computers, it's one of those things that either you fucking enforce it universally, and that means against yourself included, or you cannot fucking have it. Because otherwise, the application of it is going to be completely arbitrary and capricious. They are operating without a standard and playing like, you know, pin the tail on the donkey for hoping for a good outcome from it, without any consideration about what the longer implications are going to be. And so, you know, they may interpret it that, oh, you know, we're going to be able to tell miners that they have to run the version of Bitcoin's code that Blockstream puts out, or they are in violation of some law. People will just stop using Bitcoin. They'll quit mining it. They'll start mining a coin that doesn't really give a shit. I mean, Bitcoin just proved this shit works. That's all it did. It was a proof of concept that we could make a digital network for transacting monetary value in a trustless manner without the need for permission from any corporate or federal entity. And we proved it back in 2009. Everything since then has just been iterative improvements upon that proof of concept. What comes out the other end, I couldn't really tell you, but I will tell you this. It's not going to be the product of any kind of law or policy established by a federal government or a corporate entity. It is going to be what the people decide to use, what they choose to use. And another assurance I'll give you is this. Whatever it is, it will not be alone as a digital monetary medium on this planet. That they will exist in competition with others, and others that are run solely by the public. Again, without any corporate or government protection or participation. Governments and corporations may participate in them because they think it's beneficial for them to do so. But there'll be no law requiring them to do so, nor will there be any law requiring that the rest of us do so in the way that they do. Keep that in mind. When you're deciding what you want to support, remember, no corporate or government entity or civil or social entity can ever provide you with the assurance that everybody is going to use it, that everyone will be obligated to use it, and that you will benefit at all from anyone's use of it. Keep it in mind. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw it back down to music. And I want to go with some Meshuggah. And so here it is, Electric Red by Meshuggah here on Coin Metal. And that was Meshuggah. I didn't catch the name of the song. I know it was off of Destroy, Erase, Improve, and I'm sure if I thought about the lyrics for just a few, I'd figure it out. Again, I got sucked into the Twitter hole. Sorry. It happens. It happens. It happens. Anywho, yeah, I'm kind of rounding it out. I think I might have a little issue going on with my program here. It's kind of seizuring on me. Might have to bail out and jump back in again. Yep, it's going to happen. Oh well, not a big deal. We can just fire it back up and get it going again. Bam! Back on. No issue. Anyway, yeah, as far as what we're going to finish up on, let me see if I've got a smaller article here. Something nice and short and sweet. And, I don't know, that doesn't seem quite what we want to get into. I don't know, let's get into this one. It might explain something. And this is on ambcrypto.com, AMB, or I guess that's the English version of ambcrypto.com. Bitcoin network health declines post-halving. And this is by Namrata Shukla. And going by the picture, I'm going to say no penis. Let me see if the picture, no penis. Alright, cool. It's just the beginning of June, and the Bitcoin market has already witnessed a continuing push and pull sentiment in the market. On June 1st, the buyers pushed the price of the cryptocurrencies higher than 10K. However, due to restricted volume, the digital asset could not maintain its value and fell the next day. As the market was picking up pace, so is the volatility. According to a recent report by Glassnode, its Glassnode Network Index, GNI, noted that the declining health and liquidity in the network post-halving. The GNI began the month of May on an uptrend and reached an annual high of 76 points. However, post-halving, as the volatility seeped into the market, the GNI volume was on a decline for the rest of the month and closed at a 56-point mark. Despite signs of weakness, GNI remained mainly positive, as its gains were supported by other sub-indexes, or sub-indices. Network health and liquidity that peaked on 12th of May with 90 points and 62 points respectively. However, the post-halving event did cause these values to decline. The GN compass that identified four distinct BTC environment, as the x-axis measured the state of the blockchain fundamentals and the y-axis measured the current Bitcoin momentum. Based on the two values, BTC either fell in the bearish quadrant, regime 4, bullish quadrant, regime 1, or quadrant 2 and 3, which indicate the instability in the digital asset. In May, BTC remained on the edge between regime 1 and transitional regime 3. Even though in early May the on-chain fundamentals solidified in the strong region, the GN compass moved away from the bullish territory as the price was unable to consistently breach the 10,000 resistance. However, unlike April, the BTC fundamentals and price maintained a significant distance from the bearish regime. Whereas sub-index sentiment that started off at a high position of 90 points immediately fell prey to the declining price and suffered a loss of 30% compared to early May. Joining this behavior was another sub-index liquidity that rejoined in the increased trading, and transactions near halvening fell by 33% in just 2 weeks after the halvening event. Despite the onset of volatility bringing down the indices, the BTC network health appeared to have pulled away from the bearish territory and has been positioning itself closer to the bullish zone. Yeah, that's interesting, but I don't know that you can really yield the full scope of what's going on without including the same fundamentals of other cryptocurrencies. Like if you're seeing a dip in interest in Bitcoin but an increase in interest in another cryptocurrency, that could be telling you something slightly different than this raw data is telling you, exclusively relating to Bitcoin itself. And if the market were only Bitcoin, that would be a fair assessment of the situation, but the crypto world is not Bitcoin alone. And so for that reason, it's incomplete and doesn't really tell us all the things it purports to. Anyway, let's go ahead and close out. Thank you very much for listening. I certainly do appreciate the support. We will be back again on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so until then, I want y'all to trade safe. Do your homework. And watch out for your own bunghole, because nobody else is going to do it for you. And so as far as our last dance is concerned, I got one picked out already. Just once, it's happened. Beastie Boys, Sabotage, Last Dance, here on Coin Metal. Thank you again for listening, and y'all have an excellent evening. Good night.